I just wanted to come on here and go live for a little bit to answer a couple of questions if there are any, and just kind of talk about what's going on with the channels. Still doing the leadership series. However, I have taken down the videos because what I'm going to do next is put the prior videos on Patreon, and we'll just move on fresh from here. So, one of the things that I'm learning as I navigate this space and I do something different is that, what led me to even go on a leadership journey was a promotion, right? And so as I'm starting to deep dive into leadership, it's not only affecting the way I think about my career and where I'm going with that, but it also has changed, how I look at faith, how I look at family, and even how I look at social media, because I can tell you that 10 years ago, last year, last month, if I were thinking the way that I think now, none of my content would have looked the way it did. So one of the things I like to talk about is, now and then I like to come on and say, well, if I were giving someone younger advice or someone new to YouTube advice, what would it be? Number one, I would say take the time, and this was told to me, but like, when you kind of jump in and you're winging it, take the time to learn your craft. Take your time to get to know exactly what you want your niche to be. And look, that can change. And a lot of times, if you even pay attention to a lot of content creators that have been here on a for some years, you'll see a lot of their old content isn't available anymore. It's because over time you grow. And I don't think it's that you're hiding the content. I think it's that at some point you have to evolve. And even if it changes the audience to start from scratch, I think it's worth it as you try to find your voice or try to rearrange your voice. And I will say, even in the workplace, I can tell you, like right now, just shifting from being a regular worker to a supervisory position, you have to make a pivot that is at times can be quite unexpected. And I think a lot of times one of the mistakes a lot of people make when you just jump into something, you think you can kind of approach people the way you've been doing it, and it just doesn't work that way. People, for example, I would say, like, let's say you and your coworkers are getting along great. Everything changes once you become their supervisor, because now what is your primary purpose? Your primary purpose is to protect the processes and ensure that that the employees are following protocol and procedure. You are going to be assessed on that standard. When you go in and get your performance rating, it is going to be based on how well the team is performing. Well, if the team has kind of been doing what they want to do, and here you come trying to implement or even just follow the basic rules and they haven't been doing it, you all of a sudden will become problematic. You will all of a sudden, in their mind, become a megalomaniac. Here you come trying to tell people what to do. You don't let this position go to your head. Like, and for some people, that is the case. I can say that I've people morph into monsters with a promotion. Some people, you don't even have them you don't even have to change their pay. All you have to do is give them the title and to nuts. It's just the idea that they can rule over you. And that's not the purpose either. The purpose is for you to try to find some common ground. So anyway, that's where I'm going with it. And I just was looking at a post, and it was talking about what advice would you give your younger self. And I think that is a standard question that you see people asked all the time. Shalom to y'all down there. And I can honestly say that when you are growing and you're in your zone, I literally think that answer can change every year. And like that's where I am with it right now. Like doing this leadership series, we're going through the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership right now. For me, that looks different this month, more different than it did last month, because I'm realizing that you even have to, especially, I'll say this, if you're working a job and you're going to try to do YouTube, you really have to be extra careful about how you talk about certain topics. You have to be careful about politics, religion. I think you get more leeway because people can't control or dictate your faith, but definitely when it comes to politics, and I will even say office politics, because if somebody just misconstrues a conversation and believes that you are talking about them at work, it can result in you being terminated. I watched a video where a young lady on company property, she had her badge on. So you really need to look into your company's social media policy when you do content. A lot of companies do not want anything showing where you work in the background. They don't want you wearing your ID badges. They don't want you wearing your uniforms. If anybody can watch your content and assume that you're bad mouthing your employer, it can get you in trouble, you know? So that's just it. But I just always want to try to give you guys the opportunity to ask a Ask Ren question in the chat if you want to. And Hazel, I am learning that whenever people come in the chat and they just start posting weird stuff, it is more than likely, if you give them a minute, they will start getting disrespectful. That's something else. We're just talking about things that you learn. Don't allow foolishness to go on in your chat. If you see it, as soon as they get started, kick them out, because more than likely they're on some bullshit, and then you're going to end up just trying to throw you off of whatever you're doing. I would say another thing, if you have a channel already, and this is really hard for content creators, right? Because you give wrenches to people who are long-term subscribers, long-term users of the channel. They've been with you a long time. I would say if they respect your content and they respect you, they will not have a problem with you doing a hard reset. I would remove every wrench that you have anybody on that channel unless you have decided that they are going to moderate your channel. Now, you may do a few honorary wrenches here or there, but I would say literally that should be sparingly. It literally should be people who you are actively doing content with and in community with. And I don't care if they're your number one fan. Do not give your audience wrenches to your channels. It is literally just like at work, how we are always talking about your coworkers are not your friends. This may be hard for a lot of people, including the fans, to understand. Your viewers, followers, fans, whatever they are, whatever if you have special names for your people, if they're with you, they're with you. They're not your friends. You don't know these people. You, they just see you talk on YouTube and they think, because I think just like in the workspace, it creates an illusion of inclusion. When people are watching you talk every day and they're listening to you and they're commenting in the chat and you're communicating back, it starts to feel like you have a relationship. And even Nyla, shout out to Nyla, she even says now we're in a relationship. For some people, they hear that and they get it. It's just a catchy, cute phrase because, yes, I'm going to be coming to this channel and I'm going to be watching the content. But there's always some lone nut out there that really, this is my friend. They start to feel entitled. They start to believe that they can say what they want to say to you, to your audience. If they have a wrench, they become a megalomaniac. They start people. They start deleting comments. If someone says something they don't like, why, they believe they have carte blanche to put that person in timeout. I would almost say, for me, especially as you become a larger content creator, it would even be worth it for you to just pay for moderators. Because one thing for sure, they are there to work. They're not there because these people, again, this is a business. anything you like, anytime you're in a public and you're dealing with the public, and that includes at work, these people are not your friends. You don't know what these people can have somebody like literally. If you know about Ted Bundy and a lady that wrote the book The Stranger Beside Me, okay, you're going to work every day and you're talking to some nut and they just may be a serial killer. No exaggeration. How many people go to work and they end up with an active shooter on their job because you believe that these people are your friends? Let's see, Zale, what are your question? How do you decompress from the stress of leadership? That is a good question. So for me right now, considering all the things that I'm going through, I have learned, number one, I think joining the leadership programs that I have joined, those were two of the best moves that I've made, because I was able to just last week go to a one-on-one with one of the leadership coaches, and really shifted my perspective on the current situation that I was dealing with. And that is one of the reasons why is Second Corinthians, yourself, and then the other seek wise counsel. Proverbs, I believe it's 19 and 20. Don't quote me on that, but it's a proverb that speaks about there is safety in a multitude of counselors, and we do a couple of those scriptures about having people around you who you can trust. One of the things in this last leadership session we were talking about is they asked the question, who is on your personal board of directors? And if you don't have one, you need to create one, and you need to have these different spots for these different people. And it won't always be of a personal bent, but for some of those people it is. They your personal board of directors, there's a couple people on that they're to give you personal counsel. They may be a mentor. You may do one-on-ones with them. So I definitely think if you could surround yourself with a dynamic group of women or men or a mixture that you can go with and bounce ideas off of, that's always a great idea, because and it definitely helps alleviate stress. Another thing I do is I write. I write now more than I used to. The two most important things for me right now is prayer and meditation. And I really, Zale, wanted to dive into that on one of these Hebrew champ woman shows, because I have a bit of a bone of contention for, I think, the Abrahamic faiths, because when you look at the faith and you look at how, whether you're looking at Torah or if you're a Christian or whatever, neither one of these faiths focus on teaching people prayer and meditation the way Buddhists do. It's like I don't understand how faith that is so, it has that ritually ingrained into its culture does not focus on teaching what that should look like. Because if you talk about the four Buddhist principles, and one of them being Maitri, loving kindness, that is something that Christ actively talked about, right? And we could just use love thy brother as thyself. Well, when you talk about Maitri, loving kindness to yourself, forgiving yourself, loving yourself, being befriending yourself, right? If you don't love yourself, you can't love your brother. If you treat you bad, you're not gonna treat your brother right. So it's really, it's just interesting to me. I think it would be an interesting conversation. Shalom down there. I see you guys. Let's see. What's my next? Your next question was, how far up in leadership would you be willing to go as far as your career? Um, I would say right now, for what I am currently doing, my perspective on that has changed. I used to be a person who would say I did not want a leadership position, and I kind of fell into this position by default. And now I would say I would go as far as I'm able. I would run with it and I would just absorb all of the experience, because now I do know solidly that this is not a final destination for me, and actually that I am going to start my own organization. So I would be willing to experience everything and accept any leadership position that I could, so that I could grow. That's pretty much what I do. Let's see. Uh, so, if anybody has any more questions, just I'll give you guys a few more minutes to ask. But yeah, I'm definitely, there is a bit of a reboot. I'm going to start because keep in mind, this channel is the Renaissance Woman channel. And so this channel was always originally meant to be kind of a personal vlog. And I will even say, I didn't even realize over this last year, I've been so busy fighting what I believed was a good fight that I kind of lost my way, fell off with everything, including making sure I was exercising every day, taking care of myself. And I just think that that's something I want to share because I do know that for people, if you're a busy professional out there and you're going to work every day, you're coming home caring for a family, and you may even be working as a second gig or you're trying to launch your own business as well, it's easy to let your health fall to the wayside. Making sure that your mental health, that you're checking in and doing things for you, or you're reading, you have a hobby, and if you don't have time for any of those things, you need to take a break. So I will even say, to answer the question that I posted earlier, because because I had ran across it, what would you tell your young? Definitely, for sure, do not care more about your job than your employer does. If your employer doesn't care about maintaining the ethics, morality, and dignity of the place that they have established or that they are have been put in their hands, you cannot care more than they do. You can't care more than your boss. It's going to just be problematic for you all the way around. It's unhealthy. And this may sound really bad, but I'm going to tell you something too. If you are in a toxic work environment, just stop and really work on your exit strategy. Really focus on where you're going. And I will even say, let's say you're in a toxic work environment, but you've decided that I need to walk this time down. That looks a certain way as well. I think it looks like, it's funny in this space, they're always talking about divestors and divesting from things. I think you have to divest from a lot of people, a lot of activities and things in the workplace. I think you have to go ahead and just say no. Don't, and I will definitely say this, I learned this the hard way. Don't volunteer for anything, because your hard work, you going the extra mile, especially if you're in a toxic relationship or you have a toxic boss, they're not going to give you the recognition that you deserve, especially if they don't like you, right? You're just spinning your wheels. They'll use you if you allow yourself to be used. Yeah, they'll use you up. They'll let you work yourself to death, and then they will still, or who's not working nearly as hard as you are. Don't waste your time. And that might sound counterintuitive, but it's true and it works. Because at some point, you have to set boundaries when you're in a space that's for you until you can make a transition into doing something else. If you're navigating a that is unhealthy, unproductive, your boss has you on a hit list, you got to work on your exit strategy, and you're not going to be able to do that giving your workplace 100%. Meaning you may cut back on the overtime. If you need the overtime, fine, do it. But just make sure that you've set some healthy boundaries and that you're sticking to them. And you know when to say when. You got to know when to fold them. And I will definitely say another thing is, when people talk about learning to pick and choose your battles, that's so cliche, but to me that means something really different. Like, picking and choosing your battles, you really need to just ask your question: is this email worth me responding to? Because obviously this person is trying to goad me. She's, or he is obviously get some type of response out of me. So what am I going to do? And I think sometimes the best thing to do is to just say okay. as that sounds just to get just say whatever you need to say to get them out of your face and that you're going to comply and just be done with it. Because if you're in a toxic work environment, this is one thing I can tell y'all as a person who has windmilled and fought, filed complaints, and then one place successfully had a race supervisor removed. In the end, the culture still change. If the environment, if toxicity is embedded into the culture, you're not going to move it. You're not going to shift it. It's not your business. It's not your personal business. So there's a limit to what you can do. So that's just something to think about. So I'm check here and see if I have any. I move on and let you guys go for the night. I just wanted to check in. And so thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the morning. If I have time, I'll do a drive time live. I definitely will be posting from the park. I'm going to the park tomorrow. I'm going walking. So I will talk to you guys then. Shalom. Have a good night.